Hello everybody and welcome back to a long form video of mine, which is actually something that doesn't happen very frequently. I make a lot of shorts and that's mostly because I have no idea what to do in a long form video except for ramble on about something I'm passionate about, which is sorta what I'm going to be doing today. Today I'm going to be making my own little tier list of my favorite Eddsworld characters, which I think I might be just a tad few years late, but I will mention that recently we got a video from the Eddsworld official Twitter account announcing all of the new things that are coming in 2024. So I think it's a better time than ever to give my character opinions. So let me put the tier list board up and I'll introduce the characters as they come by. Perfect. So now let's begin with the first character I see on the tier list, which is the evil producer. We don't see much of this character at all during the episodes. Mostly, well, I think the most recognizable is from Spares, which is old, and the casting episodes where they're deciding new voice actors. His character is funny, don't get me wrong, but I think it's only a solid D tier compared to the other characters that are gonna show up on this list. Next is Larry, which I actually had to look up his name for this video, and that's how small of a role I think he has. Though, I will say, at the end of Spares, his line was pretty funny.
How do you morons even breathe?
Which I believe gets him a spot one higher than the director, C. I guess the characters that show up least in the show are coming first, because the next character is Future Ed. For what I know, he only appears in one episode, but even in that episode happened to catch mine and a lot of viewers' attention. He's pretty much just Ed, but older and grumpier, which I think gives him some points on my end. I'm just gonna rate him as he is, taking away a couple points for how negative he is. So, a B. I guess it's back onto the mid-character train we are, because now the next one is Santa Claus. Now, this could just be that I haven't watched the Santa Claus episodes in a long time, but I don't think the character actually stuck with me. He was good where he needed to be, and I think that earns him a D. I honestly don't want to talk too much about these two because I don't even know their names or characters enough to give meaningful commentary. E tier. Yet another E tier with non-canon Tori over here. It's honestly kind of crazy how wild everybody can get for a character that only appeared once in zombie form. And I can already hear you guys blowing up my comments. Well, here's this art or that art of Tori. Well, she still didn't have a speaking role or animated that much, so it doesn't really matter to me. Until she's given a purpose in Eddsworld, my judgment will stay the same. Next character is Red Leader, who I placed a little bit higher than Tori, which might be a little bit of a confusing decision. Just like Tori, Red Leader isn't really all that canon and hasn't appeared any time in the form that is shown in the photo. However, I do find the concept of a future Tord more interesting than a gender-swapped version of Tord, just like I would for Future Ed versus L. So, I've placed him just a little bit higher at D tier. I guess I'm beginning my opinions on the neighbors, which my least favorite one, Mark. I guess there's really no justifiable reason as to why I hate him. I just do with a passion. E tier. Next is Eduardo, which is already a questionable character on his own. Despite my opinions on him earlier when I was watching it, I think he's pretty charming, so I'm gonna put him up at a C. To finish out the neighbors, we have John, which is actually a pretty high note to end the neighbors on. Just like Eduardo, I didn't like him very much when I first saw him due to the carbon copy he was of Tom. However, I eventually learned that he was quite different and I started to appreciate him for the character he is, especially during Salunatics. So I'm pretty sure this lands him a spot in the B tier right next to Ed.
Say something, you idiot! Something.
Okay, so it seems we're finally finishing out the Eddsworld future set with Tom. I'd argue nothing really changes with his personality rather than his design, so I'm just gonna put him up at B for his cool design. And now we have future Matt. In my personal opinion, I think they just took away every good quality from Matt to make him more depressed, which I think is a theme for the future characters. And for that reason, he's a C. Okay, well now it's on to the least known, Paul. Despite him only showing up in really old episodes and really new ones, I still find his character very funny. And I might just be a fan of some of the headcanons they put on him, so for that reason he's a B tier. Next is Patrick, who is sort of in the same boat, or should I say plane, as Paul. However, I would say his lack of appearances in both old and new episodes makes him a little less interesting, so I'm gonna put him at a C tier. We can now officially start the Eddsworld cast with Matilda. Just as the entire concept of Eddsworld says, it's pretty much just Matt, but gender swapped, which is still pretty good, so I'm gonna give her an A. Next up in the Eddsworld cast is Elle, which is actually pretty exciting for me. She's got all of the good qualities of Ed, which would usually make her an S tier, but because of how little we see of her in only 2 canon episodes of Eddsworld, I'm just gonna keep her at an A with Matilda. The final character in the Eddsworld cast is Tamara, which usually I would just say, oh, she's the same as Tom, but gender swapped. But I just want to point out her design. It's actually really nice, and for some reason I really latched onto it when Mirror Mirror came out. Unfortunately, I don't think her design gives her a solid S tier, so I'm just gonna move her down to A with all of her friends. Now, before I rate the main Eddsworld cast, I just wanted to do a quick shout out to my friend Starry's channel, who just hit 1K. We have similar types of content, so I'm sure if you just went to her channel and press subscribe, you'd be satisfied. Speaking of the subscribe button, you can always click that on my channel below and give this video a like. Thank you. Let's do an easy transition into the main cast with Tom. In my opinion, he's probably one of the most recognizable Eddsworld characters rather than Tord, which gives him a couple points. His design is genuinely interesting and sort of unlike the person that he was based on. He would be an S tier personally, but he was funny in the earlier cartoons, which I probably would have put him on S for, but just because of legacy, I'll drop him to A. Let's just get Mr. Edgelord out of the way because the next character is Tord. I honestly think this is another example of legacy isn't as good as the original versions of the character. Though it is interesting to get a more definitive answer as to what Tord was doing, I don't think, in my personal opinion, that it was the best. And all of the more recent stuff we're getting about Tord just kind of seems like fan service for the old fans that liked his character, and for the new ones that are being weird about him. As an ex-Tord role player, it pains me to say, but I think he's going in A tier. Second to last is Matt. Despite how much he's hated in the fandom, honestly, he's probably one of my favorite characters. I believe that Matt is probably one of the most unchanged characters throughout the entire history of Eddsworld, not including design, of course. Despite what I thought of him when I first watched Eddsworld, I still think he's probably one of the best characters in the cast. So, he's going to be my first S tier along with Ed, which is honestly no surprise. He's the main character and his name is in the title, but there's many other reasons to why he's a good character. I don't want to repeat myself here, but Ed as a character is funny, charming, more adventurous, and honestly a lot easier to relate to, which makes him a lot more likable. It's sort of an anticlimactic ending to just say, oh yeah, the main character's my favorite, but that's honestly the truth. And there you go, that's my Eddsworld character tier list. Now let's get that off the screen. I just want to say some things as we get the credits rolling on the screen, but I'm finishing this video on May 7th, but as I posted on my community page, I am doing the strike for Palestine, and this will be posted probably either May 11th or May 12th. I have other long videos planned, but in the meantime, if you want to go check out some of my older, longer videos, that could really help out the channel. Or, of course, you could hit the notification bell after you subscribe to get notifications for every single upload I post. Thank you for sticking by until the end, and of course, if you disagree with any of my opinions, I'd love to see them down in the comments below. This was Key, and I'll see you in the next video.